Welcome to the Desert Blockchain monthly session. Today is Wednesday, August the 26th, 2020. It's 7 p.m. Arizona time. And tonight we're going to be looking at an event that just concluded called HackFS, which stands for Hack File Systems. And we're also going to be looking at Filecoin. And 5 of us from Arizona participated in the HackFS event. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit today and talking about some developments in the decentralized web, which some people refer to as blockchain. But there's some really interesting developments that are happening in the decentralized web. And in my view, the event that we just completed, the HackFS, was pioneering some key developments in the decentralized web and basically what we can look for next developments in Web 3.0 and decentralization, computation, file storage, value exchange, and so forth. So does anybody have any comments before I kick into the presentation? All right. So let me screen share here. And okay. So hopefully you can see my presentation.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, good. Thank you. So kind of the way I'd like to get this started is, why should you be interested in this? You know, what is this decentralization all about? In particular, this file storage and so forth. And why is this event, HackFS.com and Filecoin, why is that of interest? So let me advance. So let's start with what it was. It was a month-long event that involved developers from all over the world. It started July the 6th and ended August the 6th. And it was basically a coming together of the Ethereum community along with the Protocol Labs community and some other decentralized communities that participated. But more importantly, why should you be interested in this? Well, in my view, what was being played with and developed and pioneered and innovated around is what's next for the web. And I'll make an analogy here. What's happening with the decentralization is very much akin to what we've experienced in rideshare, in Airbnb and Wikipedia and other things that are starting to become part of the fabric of our lives that are moving to a decentralized realm. And out of this moving from centralized constructs to decentralized constructs, all sorts of benefits and dimensions start to open up. And that's basically what I see is happening here in the decentralized web. Now, just like in rideshare and Airbnb and Wikipedia, there's still the traditional centralized alternatives. And I think the centralized alternatives will be with us probably forever. But just having these decentralized alternatives starts to impact the centralized alternatives as well as the new realms of use cases and functionality and value. So we'll save sort of the what's the opportunity for towards the end, but let's get into the outcome. So HackFS involved 470 developers that applied to be in the event and were accepted individually. it produced 134 projects. There was participation from around the world in 19 different time zones, and it ended with 10 winning projects, which we'll kind of go over here. So one of the things that impressed me the most about this event was the panel of judges and mentors. And we had two of the luminaries in the decentralized Web 3.0 realm, being Juan Benet and Vitalik Buterin as part of the event. But you can also see participation from Spencer Noon, who is with DTCC, which is the Deposit Trust Clearing Corporation, I believe. They do most of the clearing of the securities that are traded around the world. But as you look through the list, you'll see other people that are, leaders and innovators in this realm, both from Ethereum as well as Protocol Labs and Filecoin and so forth. So again, why should you be interested? Well, Web 3.0 innovation is getting the attention of certainly the governments around the world, the legacy sovereignties around the world, traditional enterprise, policymakers, and so forth. So we're seeing experimentation in the decentralized realm in a number of dimensions, one of which is central bank digital currencies. And some of the things that were experimented with and pioneered in the HackFS, I think will impact how governments do business, how policymakers do business, how central banks do business as well. And this whole realm of decentralization is opening up to a bunch of different dimensions. And with those dimensions, I think there's some significant opportunities for all of us to consider, whether as users or active participants in the decentralized Web 3.0. And this is a glimpse into, in my view, what is next. So this is a video of the finale, and it's about 2 hours, but all the 10 participants or 10 projects that were finalists presented their projects, and there was comments during this session, and you can see the level of innovation that occurred in this event by watching this presentation. In addition, the sponsors and the mentors that were involved with the event also talked about some of their platforms and initiatives and so forth. So over on the right, you can see some of the finalists like SailPlane, Public Annotation Network, BlockSig, which is a way to notarize or actually accomplish signatures using the blockchain, much like DocuSign. Actually, there were a couple of projects that were basically decentralized versions of DocuSign. And some of the others, IPFS Recovery, which actually impressed some of the Protocol Labs folks, because this group basically was showing the people who are creating IPFS a way to do what's called erasure coding, which is a way to repair damaged decentralized files. So I won't go into all the different projects at this point, but it was an impressive group of projects that were, for the most part, put together in a month's period. So here is the list of the projects. Again, all 10. Pygate was taking the IPFS protocol and creating a Python version of that, which I thought was incredibly ambitious. There was a decentralized Docker project, which I think was, really important. Sailplane was like a decentralized Dropbox that was very impressive as well. So some really cool projects, and you can, over on the right, you can see the HackFS project showcase, and that actually highlights all 134 of the projects that were created during the event. Now, I'm going to see if I can play this video, because this is one of my favorite projects. So let's see if we can do this. Let me do that. This is basically, I might have, oh, okay, here we go. I need to do the audio settings, same as system. Let's try this. So this is basically creating a three-dimensional world, and they call it DWeb Worlds, and it's as if you were participating in a conference in a virtualized way using like virtual reality. So hopefully this will play, but I want to show you just a snippet of this. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing, and okay, hopefully you saw that and heard it. I didn't hear it, but
we didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't hear it? Okay.
No, we saw the visualization.
Okay, so let me just describe what that was. This group, and actually some of the people that are involved with this group, are creating 3D experiences in a virtualized world, but they're also including actual live streams and camera images of people. So they're superimposing real video of people plus live streams, plus they're creating a whole world where they can do like a virtual conference. And they're doing it without centralized servers. They're doing it on a completely decentralized IPFS file system. I think that's absolutely amazing. So that was one of my favorite projects, and that didn't even make it into the top 10. So let me go back to screen share. So bear with me. Okay. So there were other games that were created, like a first-person shooter game that, again, used no central servers, was completely decentralized. This group had actually taken the game engine a game engine and put it into the decentralized file system of IPFS. So I thought that was incredible. Our group, and some of those people are on the session, being Jose, Ravi, and Randy, and Chad will be joining us in a bit. But we created PhoneWord Workshops Global Directory. And basically what this is a way to combine human-friendly addressing with machine-friendly addressing, which the Web 3.0 is lacking at this point. So one of the things that I think is holding back Web 3.0 is that it's very, for the most part, rather human unfriendly. You have these big, long addressing schemes that work really well in machines, but mean nothing to humans. So we created a prototype, and I was extremely pleased with how the prototype came together and what we started, with this project. And we'll be talking about that more as this develops and as we make some progress with this project. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment and ask the other participants on the PhoneWord Workshops team if you have any feedback. What did you get out of this HackFS event? And what was your takeaway on it?
Yeah, so Jay, do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Ravi.
Like Jay mentioned, HackFS is a global hackathon. Basically, it's building a foundation for the decentralized web. One thing I got from it was great experience to participate in the hackathon. We got introduced to a lot of new technologies and exposure to other projects, like not just our project, there were like hundreds of projects where everyone is building different part of this decentralized web, different projects, different user interfaces, solving different problems at a scale. And part of that, there were like a lot of partners, ecosystem was part of this hackathon, just not us or like the participants developing on their own. So we have great support from ETH Global and as well as Protocol Labs, as well as other ecosystem that are partnered with these two companies, foundations. So everybody have their sessions every week where if you stuck at a problem or you don't know how to solve, you can go and take the guidance from like Juan Benet or other individuals from different companies. So that was one of the great experience, and where you can talk to the founders and they help you solve a problem. So that was one of the interesting part. And as well as Jay mentioned, Jay along with others, we participated in the hackathon itself, and part of this hackathon we reached to a key milestone in our project, identifying the architecture elements of how the PhoneWord system directory structure, right? If not for this hackathon, it would have taken a long time, but I think by participating in this hackathon and talking to Juan and other judges helped us to get to here. And we presented a minimum viable product where we showed and demoed how we could use this. Right. Yeah, so, and I think, yeah, that's it from my side. We are going to develop PhoneWord workshop further. We are also changing a few things in the front end, and also improving the architecture changes and adding few other databases into the architecture. Right. Overall, this hackathon was great, and we are looking to forward, participate in more hackathons in the future. Yep. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. And I'd like to highlight a key point of this experience, for anybody that's developing a project or a startup or whatever is, I think I know how the project sounds to other people, but I really don't know until I put it in front of other people that know nothing about it and I get their feedback. This project helped me, or this event helped me develop the way I speak about the PhoneWord Workshops Global Directory. And that was huge. So in addition to this sort of spurring on the project and getting it to kind of a minimal viable prototype level, which probably wouldn't have happened, it also provided tremendous feedback from people like Juan Benet, the top developers at Protocol Labs, and other people that are key leaders and innovators in the Ethereum ecosystem. So it was really, really valuable. And I think, Ravi highlighted that not only the getting technical help, but also having these workshops and sessions that we could attend was incredibly valuable to learn about what else is going on in the ecosystem. There were many of these workshops that I would attend, and I was kind of hesitant to attend them because I thought, well, I know what this is about. I don't really need to know anything about this particular subject. And then I would attend it, and there'd be new dimensions that would open up about, unstoppable domains and Fleek and other things that really were kind of a surprise to me as I attended this. So, Randy, you have any comments?
Yeah, I'd kind of echo what both JU and Robbie said. I think one of the biggest benefits, I think, was getting to meet and hear and learn from, some of the people in the industry and the blockchain space that are, that have been significant contributors to the future, and to see how some of their programs and some of the platforms are actually working together in various ways. And I think this HackFS event actually spurred on some more of that interactivity between the different platforms, and it just showed that the more you learn, the more opportunity you're going to have to be able to contribute to and see how this this completely history changing wave of technology is really starting to come together in ways that most people had no imagination or clue that it would even do it. I mean, and we're already seeing, and as I'd mentioned to Jay earlier today, I read an article just in an email I received that one of the companies that actually participated in this HackFS actually purchased a blockchain project that JP Morgan was had founded and funded, and I think they just basically wanted to just turn it over to someone who could probably use it more functionally in the blockchain space. But I think getting a chance to work together as a team and get some feedback and see how all these other platforms are functioning, I think was really the biggest benefit for me.
Yeah,
it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Randy. And 2 points that highlight another dimension to this, an event like this, HackFS, is that some of the teams that were in the top 10 finalists came together because of the event. They were spread all over the world, like the Pygate team came together, and they didn't even know each other before the event, and they were one of the finalists. And I'm going to highlight another success story. Jason Horton, who's the co-organizer of Desert Blockchain, his project, Nori, originated through a set of hackathons. And, they're up and operating a few years later, funded and actually, generating revenues. So it's really a remarkable opportunity to participate in these events, and completely unforeseen things can come together and materialize out of these collaborative events we call hackathons. So anybody else have any comments before I move on?
If I may make
Sure.
just a few comments. First of all, good evening, everybody. I could spend hours talking about the hackathon. I'm just going to say that maybe 3 months ago, I did not know much about decentralization. Since the hackathon started, I've gotten a Raspberry Pi that is talking to more countries than I even thought that existed before. But the most important thing of all this is the support that I got from the fine gentlemen that you're seeing here, Jay, Chad, Randy, and Ravi. That is priceless. So thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Jose. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to collaborate. And, you know, I have to admit that I didn't really, there were a lot of things about the event that I was hesitant about, that I didn't want to do, I didn't want to take on, you know, workshops that I didn't want to go to. And again, almost, I mean, I can't think of an exception, but every time it was worth it. So anyway, I'm hoping that we can have more hackathons here in Arizona and push the envelope of the decentralized web and be part of the global community that is innovating and creating something, you know, really exciting here. So any other comments before I move on to the next topic? All right, cool. Feel free to interrupt me if anybody would like to chime in on any of this. So the next topic, which it goes hand in hand with the HackFS, is Filecoin. And a big part of HackFS was to explore how Filecoin could be utilized in the real world, use cases, and to see what this group of 470 developers from all over the world would do with at least the test net for Filecoin. And I think there were a lot of great ideas that emerged out of the event, but this is a video. It's about 45 minutes, and it's with Pooja Shah, who's the manager of the Filecoin project for Protocol Labs, and the CEO of CoinList, Andy Bromberg. And it does a really good job of explaining what Filecoin is, where it's at, what the history is, and what we might expect in the very near future. So we've talked about Filecoin in the past, but just to give everybody an update as to where it's at, Filecoin is now in the testnet phase, and it's expected to go live in about 2 months, 2 to 3 months. So this HackFS was one of the events that's gearing up for the mainnet launch of Filecoin. And what this video does is it talks about these 5 key points. So why is Filecoin worth your time and attention? Well, this represents the decentralized cloud. So it's kind of like rideshare for cloud services. And particularly here in Arizona, we have a lot of cloud services. We have Microsoft that's, you know, building a huge facility for cloud storage. I think we have Apple, Amazon, and then other cloud providers. But what Filecoin is introducing is a way for all of us to be able to use any kind of excess storage capacity that we might have on our laptop or our desktop computers. We might be able to earn money on that, just like people are able to earn money by using their own vehicles to drive other people around. But the other flip side of that is that Filecoin represents a way for us to pay other people to store our files in a decentralized manner. And I think that's really, really important because, you know, we rely upon some of these large cloud storage providers. We trust them with our data. And, you know, for the most part, that's gone pretty well so far, but it's nice to have this alternative of a decentralized cloud solution. And it's likely that we're going to use all three of our storage capabilities, which is to store our data on our own equipment at home or at work or whatever, to use a centralized cloud storage provider. And now there's the alternative to have, as it was termed in the HackFS event, the third leg of the stool, which is the decentralized cloud, being Filecoin, IPFS, and I'm sure there's going to be others that follow suit to provide similar services. Actually, there are decentralized cloud storage providers out there now. But so that's kind of the first and foremost thing that to highlight about this new construct called Filecoin. The second thing is that this gives all of us our ability to own and control our own data. So we will have, in short order, in a couple months, we will have the ability to pick and pay for the people that are going to, or the entities that are going to store our data in a decentralized way. And basically we'll be in control of that data. The third point is that this is a way to utilize idle storage capacity that exists in the world. And in that video that I just showed you, they come up with some estimates as to how big that storage, you know, excess storage capacity is, and looks like it's huge. The fourth point is that because of the cryptography that's involved with this process, we can all transparently verify the storage of our data. So there's ways that we can audit that our data is being stored as we think and assume that it's being stored. And I think that's a huge advantage. Then the last is market efficiencies. And, you know, I won't go too deep into this, but this is really, really important. The market efficiencies of a decentralized file storage and market for that file storage opens up all sorts of market dynamics in terms of having pricing determine, you know, where's the data going to be stored? How close is it going to be stored to the eventual users? Are there going to be these decentralized CDNs, content networks? And it also opens up the ability to have markets for bandwidth, which I think is really, really important. So again, the 45 or 47 minute video that I showed you before goes into much better detail on how this all works and includes some other dimensions that are sort of in addition to these 5 points. So what's coming up around Filecoin? Well, right now there's something called the Space Race, which was just launched on Monday. And this is a way for developers around the world to test Filecoin, and they kicked it off, I think, sometime Monday evening. So it's been up for about 30, 40 hours. And already they've loaded, I believe, 16 petabytes of data onto this test net. And that's crazy in such a short amount of time. Filecoin launch is expected to come out sometime, let's say, into third quarter, sometime in the fourth quarter. There are additional ETH Global events, and ETH Global was the company that produced HackFS. We are having PHONEWORD workshops, global directory events. We have them every Thursday now at 9 a.m. Arizona time for about a half an hour. We're going over different dimensions of how the directory works and how you can get involved. Desert Blockchain citizens can create 2 listings on the global directory and start to be some of the first users of the global directory. And we talk about those in the workshops. We're also opening up registrar opportunities, which means that entities could become registrars like GoDaddy and Network Solutions and that sort of thing to help people that aren't technically versed in the decentralized web, assist them with setting up decentralized web services. We also are creating a marketplace for listings. So if you, as a Desert Blockchain citizen, or this is also open to HackFS participants until at least September 30th, but if you can think of a phrase that you think would be valuable in the marketplace, you can use that as one of your listing choices, and you can immediately put it on the marketplace for sale, or you could develop it yourself, or you could develop it and then sell it, whatever. So we're introducing market dynamics as one of the fundamental pieces for this PHONEWORD Workshops Global Directory. We're also working on, as Jose mentioned, Raspberry Pis that are set up to be nodes and part of this decentralized mesh network that can do a whole bunch of things that have a different dimension to them in that you control the hardware. You know who is or is not tracking your activities using that particular device. So we'll be talking about that. In fact, our next session on in September 23rd will be about the canaries and the devices. And we're planning to show some of the dimensions that make this really, really interesting. So usual notice, we do not recommend Filecoin or any other cryptocurrencies. All cryptocurrencies highly speculative, and you should expect to lose all your funds with any cryptocurrency, in my view. So there's your warning. And there's where you can become a Desert Blockchain citizen. So I will stop the screen share at this point and open it up for questions and comments.
So who are the winners of the HackFS like hackathon? Were there actual winners?
Yeah, the 10 finalists were actually the winners, and they
All 10 of them.
Yeah, all 10 of them. Basically, they split up the. I think there was like $125,000 in prizes, and there were winners in addition to the top 10 finalists. So some of the teams got like anywhere from $100 to a few $1,000s. Some of the other teams got, some of the finalist teams, I think, got in the tens or 30. I think $30,000 was the top prize. There are additional programs that are being launched. One is called Tachyon Accelerator, and that involves basically a funding, an initial seed funding of $80,000 for 7% of the entity. And that will be running from, I think, September to December, with assistance to take the projects that were introduced in the HackFS event and beyond, and basically, take them to the next level. And Jason, if you have anything you'd like to say about that sort of program, because I know Nori participated in that, and it seemed like it was a really valuable opportunity.
Yeah, accelerators are certainly, it's one of the most interesting kind of experiences that I've ever gone through myself. Definitely valuable, especially when you're kind of a younger group, or a group who's still trying to figure out where your product, your product market fit might be. So definitely valuable. I went through the Techstars program and last year, about a year ago now, almost exactly, which was a phenomenal experience. And
how long did that program last, and what sort of input did you get?
I want to say it was 3 months, and it was an interesting experience. It started with like 3 days of something, or not 3 days, it was like 3 weeks of something called like Mentor Madness, where they kind of have like a revolving door of possible mentors where you're kind of interviewing, kind of co-interviewing, like a bi-directional interview of, whether that person might be a good mentor for the products that you're building, and kind of whether that person kind of can offer that type of experience for what you're doing as well. And so that's how it starts. And then over the course of the next month and a half or so, you're preparing for kind of a final day where called demo day, similar to Y Combinator does something similar, where you have kind of like 3 months, and then you at the end of it kind of demonstrate all the progress that you made over the course of the few months, or really more generally speaking since the inception of the company. And then it's kind of like a nice little intro to all kinds of different networks for executives or subject matter experts or investors, and definitely a valuable experience. And I can't really say much about this. You said it was called Tachyon.
Right. It's a consensus.
Okay. Yeah.
Arm.
I can definitely vouch for Consensus being quite a beneficial or innovative kind of organization. So which speaking of, we also were kind of created our company out of a hackathon similar to what you guys all participated, which was hosted by Consensus. So I did.
Yeah, you guys
sounds interesting.
So for those of you that might not be familiar with Nori is a startup that started maybe 2-3 years ago, and
about 3 years.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, and they are doing something really, really cool, which is a carbon removal trading platform. I always use this to describe Nori. It's like, imagine you've got a ton of carbon in your driveway, a big block of this black stuff, carbon, and you could, for about $15, you could jettison that out of the Earth's atmosphere and send it off into space somewhere. That's exactly what Nori's doing, which is an innovation from trading rights to emit carbon. So this is actually removal of carbon, and it's really, really cool. And Nori won the Consensus, I think it was a social impact hackathon, wasn't it?
Yeah, blockchain for social impact.
Yeah, and that was one of your early wins, basically, that sort of.
Yeah, actually, interestingly enough, there was actually a hackathon even before that, which was just the CEO and myself, Paul Gamble. We participated in a IPFS, MetaMask, probably more generally Protocol Labs, where I think David Diaz was the host of that event. But anyway, yeah, that was the actual first one, which is a few months even before that. So kind of interesting to see the difference between IPFS back when we back when we started those things to now, when we have Filecoin and all.
Yeah, and that's when Nori was basically just an idea, concept, right?
Yeah, I mean that was like even pre Nori. It was an idea called Carbon Harvest, which was the thing that came before Nori.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's just another real life example of how valuable these collaborative innovation events can be. And you know, one of the things that I think is so different about innovation through these collaborative events versus, you know, doing a startup in the traditional way. And I'm glad that Professor Marchant's on the session, but the way it used to work with a startup is that you would, you know, have somebody have an idea. Usually the founder had an idea. Oh, we think this would be a valuable service or whatever product in the marketplace. Then the founder or a group of founders would say, okay, that's a good idea. There's probably a market there. They'd go out, everybody signs non-disclosure agreements. You try to hire a team of technical experts. You stay in your huddle. You don't tell anybody about what you're developing, and you'll spend a considerable amount of time and probably money, and then maybe get some money to fund it. And then maybe a year, 2 years later, you actually launch something, and then you get the feedback. And it's like, you know, again, we really have no idea how people are going to receive or view these projects, and all sorts of interesting dimensions arise out of these collaborative events. So it's a radically different approach to innovation. I think these collaborative events can speed up innovation. I think they become valuable to the entire community. And one of the dimensions of this thing called cryptocurrency, you know, blockchain and Bitcoin and Ethereum, which were completely, you know, no patents, no nothing, totally collaborative, it was a way to financially incentivize a community of talent to come together and create something in short order. Relatively short order. So, and, you know, just to give you some idea of the scale, I think Bitcoin now has a market cap of about something slightly under $200 billion. And Ethereum has a market cap, and Ethereum was basically a white paper in late 2014, has a market cap that's just under $50 billion, which is larger than Ford and GM and a bunch of the, you know, traditional companies. So anyway, that's part of the excitement of what we're dealing with here. And you know, another great thing is we see two arguable competitors coming together in Protocol Labs and Ethereum, because in many ways they kind of overlap their functionality. So, Gary,
hey, can I ask a question just to be
Sure.
devil's advocate?
Sure.
So, I mean, it sounds like sort of an exciting new way of innovation, but what happens to things like intellectual property? If you get sort of these people coming together in this collaborative event, basically, where they meet each other for the first time even, and they come up with some cool ideas, and, you know, different people are sort of moving in and out, and do you ever get a problem with intellectual property? Who came up with these ideas?
Well, I think it is a problem. And it's kind of, the problem is, how do you set the ownership, or do you set the ownership at the outset? And I asked one of the teams specifically, I said, well, you know, who owns this? And they said, well, we don't really know. We're just kind of having fun with it. So I think that could be an issue. Now, that's not even addressing the intellectual property side of it, because, you know, there are other entities, particularly like in the document signature realm, that I know there's patents out there around that. And, you know, here these people have, these teams have created some really cool, you know, applications in short order. But it's, you know, from the policy standpoint, we really need something to, one, put together some sort of initial entity up front that these teams can go into, that's pre-made, that's, you know, everybody knows who owns what and how it's going to work, and, you know, what happens if somebody dies and, you know, their spouse comes in. We really, really need that. But the second thing we need is we need some sort of intellectual property guidance, because most of these people, they don't really want to seek intellectual property protection, but they are interested in defensive strategies so that somebody else doesn't come along and patent the same idea and then say, hey, you can't use that because I've got a patent on it. That's a big, big problem. And I'd love to continue that conversation with, you know, ASU law and some of the intellectual property folks, because, you know, the original intent, or part of the original intent of intellectual property protection, was to spur innovation. And I think in many respects, it's actually hindering innovation now. So another great topic for another session. So, yeah. Does that answer your question, Gary?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's could become a problem, either to protect your own thing, but even to protect other people from attacking you and stealing your idea. But yeah, it sounds like having some templates and some, you know, draft things that people can use would be a useful tool for that.
Yeah, it would be. And, you know, if, like, the Arizona innovation and technical community and legal community could come up with something that addresses these issues, it would go a long way to spurring the, you know, our community to be a great place to come in and innovate around this stuff. Because, I mean, you know, we've got a lot of people that have great intentions, and policymakers that have put their political capital into, you know, trying to foster innovation in this realm. But the fact is that there are other places, like Techstars is in Colorado, Y Combinator's in California. We really have an opportunity to create something that's innovative here. So this is might seem like it's a bit of a tangent, but I don't think it really is. I think this is, you know, having something that brings the talent together, helps them to set the stage to innovate, would be really, really key. Because when you're in the middle of one of these events, you're so wrapped up in the technical side of it, you have no space to think about, you know, what about the patents? What about forming an entity? All that stuff. Right. So, yeah. So anyway, so let's see. Any other questions, comments?
I have a really stupid question, probably. So on this whole Filecoin thing. So let's say I'm part of that, and I have data on my laptop, and then I'm with all these natural disasters. My laptop gets destroyed in a fire or flood. Is that data lost, or is there a backup somehow, or how does that work?
Generally, when you store your data in the Filecoin ecosystem, you've got it in multiple places. So, you know, you generally will contract with multiple storage providers. And frankly, I don't know what happens if, you know, as a storage provider, you know, for some reason you have a technical fault, I believe you lose your deposit basically. So I think there's some staking involved. If you're going to store somebody's data, you got to not only have the capacity, but also put up some money. So it's sort of like an insurance policy. I believe that's how it works. But anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And it is all cryptographically secured. So even though you're storing somebody's data, you don't know what it is and you're not responsible for what it is. So anyway, cool. Well, we're pretty much at the top of the hour, and unless there's other questions or comments, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for your participation. And, you know, your participation is part of growing this community in Arizona for, you know, basically what I see is next for the web. So thank you, and stay tuned. Join us next month on September 23rd for our Canary event. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.